Hey guys, welcome back to our third person shooter series. In the last episode we made a couple of enumerations for the weapon and added in some weapon sockets so that we could attach the weapons to our player. If you are at this point in the video and you have just started the tutorial, I recommend you go back, watch the other videos so that you can get to where we are and be able to follow along easily. In this part of the video we will be finishing attaching the weapons to the player, but before we get into it I want to correct something that I did in the last episode. So if we head over to our weapon master, which I already have open, we want to go into the construction script. Yours won't look like this because the way we set it in the last one will be buggy and won't work properly. So what we want to do is we want to, inside the set collision profile name, we want to get interaction radius and just put that in a target. We don't want to set it, we want to get it. And then inside of the set collision profile name, the second one over here, we want to get the gun mesh and we want to put that in all of these here. And then in collision profile name for the gun mesh, we want to put that as the one we created, which is dropped weapon, and we want to set simulate physics. And then from the equipped, we want to do basically copy all of this and then put it all back in. And then we want to set both of these to no collision. We want to untick simulate, and then we want to reset relative transform. Okay, so what we want to do is, since we have corrected this problem, we want to go over to our weapon component. So if we click on blueprints and we go to components, we open this, we open our weapon system. We need to add a function and we need to call this pick up weapon. So add a function, we want to call this pick up weapon. Okay, and inside of our pick up weapon, we need to add one input. We want to call this weapon. Input, we want to call it weapon. We want this to be of type weapon master that we created. We want this to be object reference. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to drag off promote local variable and call this weapon interaction. Okay. Now let's head over to our player and add the component in. So third person character, I already have it in because I did record this video once already. So what you want to do is click here, you want to search for comp weapon system and then add that in. So now that we've done that, and then let's head over to our weapon component or our weapon master that we have. In the event graph where we have event interact, we want to delete the print string. We want to go from the interact or the interactor, and we want to get component by class. The class we want is the comp underscore weapon system. And then we want to simply drag off this and we want to pick up weapon. And for the weapon, we simply want to get a reference to itself. Now, we head back over to our weapon component. What we want to do is, from the weapon interaction here, we want to get weapon structure. And we want to break the struct pin, or split the struct pin. And from weapon enumeration, we want to switch on. So switch on E underscore weapons. And we simply just want to plug this in. And if we click on this, the weapon structure should hopefully be able to get rid of the other ones. But that's fine, we'll just leave it the way it is. Now that we've broken the pins, the other variables, we switch this on. Inside of our weapon component, we want to make a macro. And we want to call this check primary holster availability. Okay, and then we want to add some inputs and then we want to add some outputs. So our input, first input, we want to call in. We want this to be an execute. And then we want to add one called interacting weapon. We want this to be of type BP underscore weapon master object reference. And then we want to add an output. And we want to add primary holster empty. And we want this to be execute. And we want secondary holster empty. And then we want holsters full. And we want one more. And we want this to be weapon. And we want this to be also of the weapon master object reference. So now while we're here, we head over. If we just create some variables, first variable we want primary holster. Whoops. We want this to be of type weapon master object reference. Another one, secondary holster. And then one which is pistol holster and melee holster. And then we want weapon in hand. So what we want to do is we want to get the primary holster. We want to check is valid, question mark. So that one. So the one that has a question mark here, we want to get this. Okay. If it is valid, what we want to do. So we'll set this here. Actually, no, we'll set this down here. Okay, so if it's not valid, we just want to plug this straight into this. Interacting weapon would go into weapon. Let me correct the spelling on this one. Interacting weapon. Let me just pull this to here. And then from the primary holster, we want to get our secondary holster. We want to check it's valid. We'll plug this in. If it's not valid, go into the secondary holster. Let me just put this above. Drag this out a little bit. Okay. Now if we go over to our pickup weapon, what we want to do now is drag out our check. Whoops. Drag out a check primary holster. And everything that is a rifle goes into here. So that'll be the AK and the M4. So they go into here. And the weapon would be the same as what we have here in the local variable. So that would be simply weapon interaction there. So that's what that would go into interacting weapon. Okay. And now what we want to do is whatever rifles we have, which is the AK and the M4, will go into the rifle holster availability. And then we just want to make another variable here. We want to call this empty holster. And we want this to be of a type name. We want to compile and save that. And since we've made this holster now, if we head over to our rifle availability macro, what we want to do is grab in our empty holster, put it on the not valid primary. We want to name this primary, whoops, holster. So whatever we named it in our bones when we set our sockets. So primary holster, and if we drag another one into the not valid, we want this one to be secondary holster. We will be leaving some space for some code as well. So we will be doing some other stuff on is valid and etc, etc. We just straighten all this up. Okay, so now that we've done this, we need to add another function. We want to call this attach weapon to player, and inside of here I want to add two inputs. So we want weapon and we want holster, and the holster needs to be of type name and the weapon needs to be of type BP_weapon master. So what we want to do is we need to get our mesh as well. Bear with me just a moment. So pick up weapon function. So if we go and pick up weapon, we've got this. Okay, so then from our bear with me just a moment. So from this primary holster empty here, what we want to do is set our primary holster. Okay. And then from set primary holster, we want to attach a weapon to our player. But what we want to do is we want to get our mesh to be able to attach it. So for us to get the mesh, we need to head over to our event graph. We need to get event begin play. And we need to cast it to our third person character. So third person character, or whatever you called it. For the object reference, we want to get player character. And we simply just want to drag off third person character promoted variable and call this player ref. Okay, so then what we want to do is, now that we've done this, we go to attach weapon to component, head back over to there. We want to attach to component. So attach actor components. So hold on, this something I'm missing here. Okay, so sorry, what we want to do is player reference, mesh, then attach actor to component, plug this in, weapon goes into target. I want to snap all to target as well. For the holster, that goes into socket name. And we also want to get this weapon again. We want to set weapon state. I'm going to set this to equipped. What I'll do is, to make this a little bit more tidy, drag this up, add another reroute node here, and we'll just put this here, make it a little bit more tidy. Okay, so that should be unequipped. So if we head up to our pickup weapon, from here where it says primary holster, we want to drag out our attach weapon to player. Put that in here. And from our primary holster, there should be our weapon. And for our holster, it should just be empty holster. So now that we've done this, let's see if this works. Give it a quick test. So if we walk over to the M4, as you can see, it goes onto our back, perfectly fine. Obviously, if we go over to the AK, that won't, that won't go on because we haven't added in any more functionality. That's what the other is valid is for. So in the next video, we will be working on equipping the rest of the weapons to the character as well. So thank you for watching. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.